Hey, Science, and welcome to discussion or topic 2.2 of the Space Exploration Unit. Today I'm going to be discussing surviving there, technologies for living in space. Um, right now, there are only, I guess, there's one major location where people can live in space at the moment, which is the ISS or the International Space Station. But there's been a lot of talk about future space exploration, about setting up colonies, not colonies, but I guess um, uh, research facilities, outposts on the lunar surface, and eventually even set up a human habitation on Mars. If we're going to do this, there are a lot of things that we have to be dealing with technology-wise to actually to get people there, not just to get them there, but when they get there, how are they going to actually live there? We talked about how they're going to get there last day using rocketry and the technologies of space travel, but when they get there, how do they actually, or how are they going to survive once they've made the trip to the moon or to Mars when they're very isolated from help here on Earth? They have to be self-sufficient, and some of the things they have to keep in mind are how are they going to recycle water? How are they going to get water in a location where there maybe isn't a lot of water or any water at all? How do you keep the water you've got and recycle the water that you're using so you're not wasting water in a way that's going to have to cause you to bring more water. Remember, all this water would have to be transported with rockets and payload. And again, the more payload and water weighs a lot, you need more fuel to bring that water up. So we're trying to be as frugal as we can be and try to reclaim as much water as possible. And if we're on Mars, can we access maybe locations of water on Mars to make that happen? How do we generate electricity when we're there? We have to be able to power devices and power our outposts when we're there. What about human waste disposal? Not just of human waste, but like the waste that humans produce, not biological waste necessarily, but also garbage as well. How are we going to deal with that in a location that's essentially a virgin territory where there hasn't been human waste put before? How about keep it a constant temperature? We're dealing with locations that can be extremely cold. How do we keep the insides of these outposts at a reasonable temperature so people can survive? Producing oxygen would be another one. How do we get oxygen for those people living there? The effects of living in a no gravity environment like on the ISS, or if we're living on the moon or we're living in Mars where the gravity is not as high as it is here on Earth, something called microgravity. If you're interested about that, watch this video about that and the effects that it can have on the human body. It's already been studied quite a bit with astronauts on the ISS. They've done some pretty interesting studies on that already. And finally, what about the psychological effects of being in isolation for that long or in very confined spaces where you're not able to just basically go outside and take a walk whenever you feel like it? If you're confined to the inside of your outpost facility while you're working on, say, the moon or working on Mars. These are all things that have to be taken care of by the technologies that are going to have to be designed to make this work. How do you produce food? Hydroponics would be a great example of that, a Canadian invention that is now going to maybe hopefully make it possible for people to, well, they can. You can grow food in very small environments that don't require soil. If you're interested about any of this, and again, if you haven't seen the movie, this is not something that you have to do, but if you're watching this video and you want to watch a great movie that discusses a lot of the topics that's involved here, and it's actually done fairly well. It's a Ridley Scott's movie, The Martian. If you haven't seen it with Matt Damon, it's a great movie. I mean, it's a good action movie, but they do discuss a lot of the things about how they're taking care of recycling water and how they generate electricity and how they're getting rid of human waste and and how they produce the oxygen and all that. It's all taken care of in that movie. So if you wanted to watch a movie related to this topic, give that film, The Martian, a watch. It would be definitely worth your while to do so. Before we finish up our topic today, as I've already alluded to already, NASA has already announced that it is working on a plan to establish a permanent human presence on the moon within the next decade or so to uncover new scientific discoveries and lay the foundation for private companies to build possibly a lunar economy, maybe extracting mineral resources from the moon. So that is in the works right now. And from there, they also have their eyes set on Mars. There's been a lot of talk about going to Mars and setting up a challenge or to set up a colony on Mars maybe, or an outpost on Mars. What would the challenges be? Mars is a long way away, and if you've seen The Martian, you kind of already know, but if you want to watch The Martian, that's an interesting take on it because that's exploration of Mars, which is hopefully maybe hopefully within my lifetime I'm going to see that, and definitely hopefully within your lifetime you're going to see that. But if you're interested about some of the challenges to the Mars mission, if you don't want to watch the entire movie The Martian, but if you just want to watch a little bit about the challenges involved in a Mars mission, give this video up here a watch. It's going to give you some information about some of the things that are going to have to be taken care of with that possible mission. Staring at us here, maybe within the next decade or so, before people are going to start moving in that direction. Here are your questions for homework. A very short section here today. I'm going to get you to do questions 1 and 2 and 6 and 8 on page 425 of the textbook. Next day, I'm going to walk you through using space technology to meet human needs here on Earth. Not all space technologies that have been designed are only benefiting, companies and organizations like NASA or individuals that are going into space. There's a lot of technologies that have been developed for space that have actually now made our lives here on Earth better. And I'll be discussing that a little bit with you next time. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you soon.